Hey gorgeous! Welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast with Holly Worton, which combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset along with practical business tips to grow your business. This podcast features solo shows with Holly and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now, here's your host, Holly Worton.
Hello, this is Holly Worton, and this is a complete experiment. So I'm out walking the Wey-South Path, and it is a glorious Saturday morning. Sky is full of fluffy clouds, lots of blue in between the clouds. There's sun, which is so welcome after yesterday, which was first day on the trail, and it was raining all day long. I put my waterproofs on at the beginning of the day and didn't take them off until I got into my BMP at about just after 5 p.m. So it was a full day of rain. Today is day 2 out of 3, and I'm walking down the trail. I've got the River Arun to my right, and I've got the old Wey-Arun Canal to my left. Just about to go over a stile now. So the point of this podcast, you may be wondering, why am I taking you out on a walk, is to try something new. This was actually Elsie Escobar's idea. I had a session with her to talk about my podcast and how to really grow it and make it better for you guys who listen in every week. And so she had this idea of taking you on a walk with me. So now that I've gone over the stile, I've still got the river to my right and the canal to my left. It's a narrow, slightly muddy trail. Grass on both sides. Cow parsley is blooming, white flowers everywhere. There's tree branches covering the trail. I've got trees to my left. So I'm essentially walking along what was the old towpath of the canal. So if you're not familiar with the old British canal system, which was, a lot of it was closed in the mid-1800s, they were used for transport throughout the country. And goods and people were carried on boats down the canal. And this was before motorboats or engines of that type, so the boats were towed by horses. And the horses would walk along the towpath. And that's where I'm walking now. Hope you can hear the birds, because the birds are singing. It's so glorious. The weather's just perfect. So, tying this into the main topic of the podcast, which is, of course, business mindset, I often think a lot about how long-distance walking correlates to business. And this may sound like a stretch to you, but it's totally not. And I think about this a lot because I do a lot of walking, and I love doing long-distance walking or, multiple-day trails. A little bit of mud here now. I love walking because it gets me out in nature, gets me out in green, beautiful landscapes, places like this where I can feel like I'm in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm so close to the small town where I stayed last night, Wisborough Green. It wasn't even a town, it was a village. But it feels like there's nothing around me. I've got the river to my right and the canal to my left. I'm walking down this muddy path full of plants. It's just glorious. And so walking provides a very needed retreat to rest and relax and recharge. Oh. Can you hear that duck? He just flew off to the left. Or she. That was a she. And it's such an important part of my life because downtime is an important part of every business. Self-care is an important part of every business. Every time I go on one of these walks, I come back with new ideas for my business. Just got stung by nettles on my left hand. That didn't feel good. Dragonflies or damselflies. They're bright metallic blue. The wings are all iridescent. One of them just landed on a tree, and it's gone. So, anyway. Very, very important for rest and recharging and recovery and just giving me the space to rest my brain so that I can fall back in love with my business. Not that I've fallen out of love with it, but but take it to a new level, to really, and I know that sounds such like cheesy business catchwords, going over style again, but it really does give me a renewed love for my business every time I do it. And so let's get back to walking as a metaphor for business. Oh, almost slipped there. Walking is like business, so let me tell you what it's like. If you've never walked a long distance trail, this trail isn't very long, it's only, I think, just under 36 miles, and I split it into 3 days, so it's easy. You could do it in one day if you were crazy, but that wouldn't be fun, that would just be a challenge. So let's take this walk. It's the Wey-South Path, somewhere between 35 and 36 miles. And split it into 3 days, stay at B&Bs every night, go back home on the third day. And you've got a set amount of miles that you've got to walk each day because you have to reach your destination every night. You've got to reach your bed and breakfast or inn or wherever it is that you're staying. And you've got to get there. Because like I said, you're out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, right now, the river is kind of snaked off to the right. It's no longer alongside the trail. Canal is still to the left. I've reached an old lock and a little bridge made out of red brick. It's covered with ivy. I'm sure you can hear the water falling into the lock. It's an old lock. It's a bit broken. The lock doors are gone. But I'm in the middle of nowhere. You can see a house off in the distance. That's it. I've got to get to where I'm leaving the trail to get to my B&B tonight. It's like a goal in your business, except the difference between a business goal and walking this trail is that I absolutely have to achieve my goal. I can't just stop or give up because I won't be able to get home because there are no roads where I am. I've got to get to my goal of reaching my spot today on the trail where I can take a taxi to my B&B or walk to my B&B like I did last night. So that's the thing about business goals. And it depends on how you view them. Sometimes people set goals and their goals are kind of like, oh, well, this would be kind of nice to achieve. And then they may or may not achieve their goals. And then other people set goals and it's non-negotiable. It's like that long-distance trail. You will achieve your goals because you don't give yourself any other option. So what is it like for you when you set goals in your business? Do you set the, oh, that would be nice? Or do you actually make it happen and treat it as a non-negotiable? I do both. Sometimes I set goals and I'm like, oh, that would be nice. And I don't really do that much. And then sometimes, times that I make it happen are the times that I'm really, really jazzed about the goal and I achieve it. And it's easy because I'm really excited about it. I don't know if you can hear, I'm sloshing through mud now. So, another important way in which walking a long-distance trail is like running a business is you gotta take it step by step. You know, yesterday the portion of trail that I walked was 12 and a half miles, plus the mile walk from my home to the rail station in the morning, plus a mile walk when I got lost trying to find the trailhead, plus a mile of actually getting to the trailhead, plus a mile at the end of the day when I had to get to my B&B from the trail. Oop. It's kind of hard to walk and talk and not trip and fall. So I just slid a little bit back there. So yesterday was 12 and a half miles, plus an extra 4 miles. And I did it step by step. And it's the same in your business. So it can be easy to get ideas for these big projects, set yourself goals, and then get overwhelmed. Did I get overwhelmed yesterday when I started out in Amberley and ended up in Wisborough Green? No. No, because I just walked it step by step. And that's how you run your business. You break the big projects down into little actions, and you do them. Did I get disappointed? Well, yeah, I guess I was disappointed when it was raining all day yesterday, but did I stop? Did I quit? No. No, I kept going. Yeah, it wasn't what I wanted, ideally. It would have been nice to have sun yesterday. It would be nice if business were easy. But sometimes challenges come up, and you gotta learn how to be flexible and roll with those challenges. Because they're unexpected. This is England. Walking, even though it's May, it's late springtime. You never know when it's gonna rain. And let's be honest, that's what business is like too. You can prepare for, the best plan. You can try to take into account stuff that might come up. But let's be honest, stuff changes. You don't know what's going to happen. You might hit roadblocks that you couldn't have imagined. You've got to just go with it. When I talk about walking the trails step by step, running your business step by step, it's also important to be in it for the long game. You've got to commit to it. It's not easy. And I know that because this isn't my first business. If you've heard me talk before, I've been in business since 1999. First business ran for 10 and a half years. It was not easy. It was really, really hard. But I stuck it out. And amazing things happened. It was a really, really successful business. And, the same with this business. It's changed so many times over the last few years. When I first started out in, I think it was January 2011. It's had so many different incarnations. Because as I grow and as I evolve, my business evolves with me. And it becomes more and more me as I get to know myself more and more. And so when you start a business, you've got to be committed to the long game. If you really want to do this, if you really want to make your business a reality, you've got to commit to it. And if that means working a full-time job on the side of your business, a part-time job on the side of your business, whatever it is, do what you need to do to allow yourself to commit long-term to your business. I see so many people quit their job right away. They don't have enough money saved up to support themselves. They don't realize how long it takes sometimes to make a business successful. And then they feel like they failed because it's not working. It hasn't replaced their job income, and so they give up. You've got to be committed to the long game. In the same way, when you're walking a long-distance trail, you've got to be committed to reaching the end of the trail, or at the very least, wherever it is you're staying that night. However, like in the case of this trail, if I had given up last night when I got to my B&B, I don't know how I would have gotten home. There's no train station there. Would I have taken a bus? Taxi? I don't know. So giving up isn't easy either. If you commit to the long game, it's incredibly satisfying. And I felt that every time that I walk a long distance trail, and I feel that with my business every day. Yeah, there's some downers, but it's so satisfying to be able to help the people that I help and develop the things that I develop and communicate and exchange and play with all of my business friends. So in the same way that you're doing your business step by step, you're committed to the long game, you also have to walk those steps at your own pace. And this is really, really important. Because if you're not walking at your own pace, you know what happens? You get really tired. You burn out. I'm sure you've heard of burnout before. So, gotta figure out what your own pace is and walk that. And if you find yourself going too fast, slow down. Give yourself permission to slow down. Give yourself permission to walk at your own pace. Give yourself permission to run your business at your own pace. I'm just gonna go through a gate here. And this is a really important one because, there we are. I'm gonna go over a bridge now. An old brick bridge which was restored some years ago. I'm gonna go cross over the canal. And the reason it's so important to go at your own pace is because that's the only way you're gonna make it happen. If you try to just go overboard with business and just, drive yourself into burnout, it's not going to serve anyone. You're not going to be able to sustain your business long term. You're not going to be able to go anywhere. You're just going to burn out. And this is also important because it's so easy to compare ourselves to other people. Oh, well, so-and-so did it in 6 months. So-and-so did it in a year. And then you hear people saying, oh no, it takes 3 years in order to create a successful, sustainable business. But you know what? It's different for everyone. Everyone has different circumstances. And everyone has different abilities, different skills, different ways of making things happen. So you can't compare yourself to others. And this is really, really important. And I'm back. So I just had to take a quick break to check my map because the trail was not very well marked. And then I picked up recording again, but because I had to take off my backpack to check my map, when I put it back on, the microphone was a bit off and it made a really annoying noise. And it was so bad the last kind of third of the podcast that I couldn't release that part to you. So I decided to go back out into nature and do it a second time. So I did it a second time. And the second time was also horrible. So I'm here for a third time attempting to finish this episode. So I wanted to go back out in nature again. I know there's a lot of wind today, but I'm in a very protected place, sitting with my back up against a tree. I've got a holly tree to my left. And I'm just surrounded by beautiful nature and sitting on a bed of fallen leaves. And I've got my back up against this tree that's all covered with moss. So I felt like it was the best place to kind of continue. So taking up the thread of the podcast. So I know that you always hear people saying, don't compare yourself to others. The comparison game is not going to serve you. And that's so true. It's only going to hurt you. It's only going to hinder you. So stop feeling sorry for yourself because you're not doing your business as fast as other people, because you don't know their circumstance. You don't know what skills they have that you might not have. You don't know what help they had. You don't know what connections they had. You don't know the details of how they made their business happen. You may think you know how they made it happen, but you might just know the shiny bits that people choose to share as their story. And as we all know, people don't usually share the full story. I don't even share the full story because some of it's not relevant. Some of it probably is, but maybe I'm just not aware of what else I could be sharing that would be of interest and of use to other people. So it's not an intentional withholding of information. It's just, sometimes I'm not sure which bits to share and which bits not to share. And I think that goes for a lot of people. So getting back to the comparison game, it's always good to have the reminder to not do it. So just give yourself a break. Give yourself some compassion. And give yourself permission to do your business your way. Step by step, at your own pace. And committing to the long goal, the long game. So I hope I've given you some things to think about today, and I really hope you enjoyed me taking you on not one, but 2 walks with me. So, quick reminder, why are you doing it? Things to think about. Why are you in this game? It's not easy. So if you're going to do something that's a challenge, know why you're doing it, and walk the walk step by step, at your own pace, being in it, committed for the long game. And that's about all I have to say on the topic. So, I know that all the things I've said today you've probably heard of before, and you've probably read before, and you've probably even heard me talking about it before. But I think it all bears repeating, and I think we all need a reminder of these things because it can be really easy to kind of slip back into the icky stuff sometimes. I get upset with myself sometimes for not going fast enough, even though I know I wouldn't have gotten to the point where I am today without working at a slower pace. If I'd been rushing along and hustling, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I'm very, very happy with where I am today. Because I wouldn't have had the time and space, if I were hustling all the time, to step into all these new incarnations of my business. So when I give this advice, it's important for me to say that I'm obviously not perfect with this. I fall into these traps. I still do. But that's why we need this reminder to step out of the comparison game trap, to step out of feeling like we need to be moving faster, to hustle, to rush. And again, that may work for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. And if you're listening to me and if you're listening to this episode and you've stuck with me this far, I'm going to guess, you're probably the kind of person who's not into the hustle, rush thing. So that leads me to another thing about walking the trail. It's very, very solitary. And for me, the more time and the more space I have on my own, alone, the better it is for my business. So make sure that you get enough alone time and space for yourself. Meditate, free your mind, do whatever it is you need to do. and just give yourself the time and the place and the space. This helps for me with seeing the bigger vision of my business and my life, and it helps me to not get hung up in all the details or in my to-do list. Because I think it's so easy for us to just kind of put our heads down and just work on the list and work on ticking things off the list. But sometimes that means we end up doing the work that we don't really need to be doing, because we're not looking at the bigger picture of our vision and of our business and of our lives and the lifestyle that we want and how that all fits together. So that's it for now. I hope you have accompanied me, you've enjoyed accompanying me on this outdoors podcast episode. Thank you so much for listening. And I know I always say that, but I'm really, really grateful that you tune in every week. And it really means a lot to me. So if you ever have any feedback on the show, just send it to Holly at hollywworton.com. I would love to hear from you. I would love to have, any ideas for topics of stuff that you want me to talk about, stuff that you want me to dig deeper into. Just get in touch. I would love to hear from you. And as always, I would also love for you to take the conversation over to Facebook and join me in my Facebook group. So if you just go to hollywworton.com/group, that will redirect you to my Facebook group, and just add yourself, and I will add you every day. I check in and see who has requested to join, and I approve them. So I would love to see you in the Facebook group. I would love to connect with you there, and I would love to continue the conversation about these episodes there. So that's all for now. Thank you again for joining me, and remember that you can always find the show notes on my website. So if you go to hollywworton.com/206, you can find the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast with your host, Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollywworton.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you.